What is going on, guys? This is Jake at That Fit Friend, and today we're going to be looking at the Inov-8 F-Lite 260 V2. So 4 things to like about this model is number 1, this is a pretty good all-around type of shoe. You can wear it for CrossFit workouts, more versatile sessions, you can wear it for more athletic focused training, and it feels pretty good across the board. It's stable enough to mitigate and not compress under various loads, but it's also responsive enough to tackle HIIT sessions, plyometrics, and so forth. So if you're looking for a good all-arounder, this is a pretty good model to check out. The second pro that I like about the shoe is the Power Flow midsole. So generally whenever Inov-8 puts this feature into their training shoes, I'm usually a fan. The Power Flow midsole delivers this nice blend of responsive yet stable midsole construction. So once again, this model can be stable under various weights, but also responsive enough to not feel overbearing when you're doing HIIT workouts, jumps, and whatnot. The third pro that I like about this model is the overall durable upper construction. So if you're going to be using this shoe primarily for CrossFit workouts, this shoe is awesome because it has durable layers up here on the toe to protect the toe from early breakdown from things like burpees where you're going to be dragging your toes. And we have the rope tech feature throughout the upper and the midfoot here, and that wraps and extends through the outsole here. The fourth pro that I like about this shoe is the dynamic fascia band on the outsole and just how lightweight this model is. Similar to other Inov-8 training shoes, this model is wicked lightweight. This model has a weight of 10.5 ounces. This is a size 10 shoe. So across the board, it feels very minimalist on the foot. And if you like having that feeling in your training shoe, then I think you'll like this model. But now let's talk about a couple of cons that I have noticed with the 260 V2s. So 2 cons that I could see folks having with this model is number 1, the midfoot is pretty narrow in this shoe. So this model features a higher heel height of 8 millimeters when it comes to the heel to toe drop. The midfoot is very narrow, and then the forefoot is decently wide, but it's still pretty narrow. The shoe has a fit scale of 5 for Inov-8, which indicates that this model is intended to be a little bit more wide compared to other Inov-8 shoes, but I still think that this midfoot being so narrow right here could be off-putting for some, especially with that higher heel. It almost feels a little bit weird when it comes to the overall stability you get in the midfoot. So if you have a flatter or wider foot, this model may not be the best fit for your foot's anatomy. The second potential con I could see folks having with this model is the price point. At a price of $140 USD, this is certainly not a budget-friendly model, but since you can wear it for pretty much most of your training, I do think the price point can be worth it, especially if you are looking for that kind of all-in-one style of shoe and you like more lightweight models. So I do think the price point could be justified, but it is definitely far from budget friendly. Overall, those are the only 2 big cons I have with this model. It's pretty consistent across the board, honestly, and it's been a pretty good performer for me. I just wish that the midfoot was a little bit more wide, and I could definitely see that being problematic for folks with wider and flatter midfeet. When chatting on performance in the shoe, I'm gonna break this section into a few different parts. We'll talk about lifting, versatile training, shorter runs, and daily wear. When it comes to lifting in this model, I think most lifters and athletes should be safe when it comes to the overall compression of this shoe. I've trained up to 455 pounds in this model and didn't really notice much compression at all. So I do think this is a pretty good model for lifting. Plus, we do have a slightly wider toe box compared to other Inov-8 models in this shoe, so you can get a good toe splay if you have more of a narrow or neutral foot. This model does feature an 8 millimeter heel to toe drop, which some lifters I think will really like, but some may want a flatter drop. But either way, I don't think that hinders your lifting performance in the shoe, and it actually gives you a bit more heel to lift on if you like having a slightly higher drop with your training shoes. When it comes to more versatile training, I really enjoy this model. Just like most of the other Inov-8 models out there, the shoe feels very minimalist and almost like sock-like on the foot. You have that dynamic fascia band running through the outsole, you have the Power Flow midsole, and it gives you a nice blend of responsiveness and maneuverability. So you get a lot of responsiveness from the toe box in the shoe, and if you're tackling plyometric workouts or athletic focused work, I think this model is a hit with how lightweight and breathable it is. Plus we have a restructured heel that gives you a bit more stability back here on the heel as well, despite having this upper that is nice and breathable and very lightweight. For shorter runs, this model will work. However, like with most cross-training shoes, I would say cap your mileage to about 2 to 3 miles in this model. This model is definitely more comfortable to tackle shorter runs in than other cross-trainers out there, but you might find it a little bit uncomfortable, especially with that narrow midfoot, if you're running longer distances and you need a little bit more midfoot support. When it comes to daily wear, this model is comfortable and it will certainly work for a daily wear basis, but if you want this shoe to go the distance, I would just say limit your overall daily wear and limit their use for primarily training. That will make the shoe last longer, and with its higher price point, I think you'll get more out of the shoe for your money. So overall, the shoe has been a consistent performer across the board. I do really like this model, and honestly, like Inov-8 have been making some dynamite shoes. I like the 235 V3, the G300, and the 260 V2 I think is a really good hit, and it's a nice blend of stability and responsiveness with that higher 8mm heel to toe drop. So now let's answer the question, is this model worth it? Personally, I say yes. This model is TF2 approved. I have a linked written review below if you want to read more of my thoughts, but this model is kind of good for everything. You can really use it, and it's kind of fail-safe when it comes to all the styles of training you would want to use the shoe for. It excels for CrossFit. You can lift in it. It's good for HIIT. It's decent for versatile training. It is a bit capped with its overall running potential, but it is a better running shoe, honestly, than other cross trainers on the market. So if you are looking for a shoe to tackle a little bit of everything, then I think the Inov-8 F-Lite 260 V2 is worth it. So when it comes to sizing and fit in this model, most lifters and athletes should be safe going true to size. Now I mentioned that the midfoot is pretty narrow in this shoe, so if you do have a wider or flatter foot, you may want to go up a half size. However, I would just be conscious of your overall foot's anatomy and the overall last of this shoe. I don't think this shoe is going to agree with everybody's foot anatomy, and that's something that it usually comes along with Inov-8 models that tend to usually run a little bit more slim and narrow. So just keep that in mind when looking into this shoe, that it may not be the best fit for everybody. However, for most lifters and athletes, you should be safe going true. We chatted on price already in this review, but for the Inov-8 F-Lite 260 V2, you can expect to pay $140 USD. Personally, I think that price is a tad bit high. However, if you are using this shoe for a bit of everything and you are primarily a CrossFit athlete, then I think that price point could be worth it because this shoe does excel across the board for a variety of activities. So when talking about the heel to toe drop, weight, and insole in this model features an 8mm heel to toe drop. The insole is removable, so you can take out the insole and put in your own orthotics. And the overall weight of the shoe for my size 10 model is 10.5 ounces. All right, so now let's go over the construction in the Inov-8 F-Lite 260 V2. So throughout the upper here, we have a full mesh upper. We have that rope tech cage throughout the midfoot here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 eyelets running up, a 6 back here for lace lock. And then as you can see, we have additional layering throughout for durability. So up here on the toe, we have additional synthetic layers to protect the toe box from early breakdown. We have an extended outsole layer that wraps up. It's not like a thinner lip. It's a nice big broad outsole wrap that goes over. So overall, I love the toe durability in this model. And then back here in the heel, we have a restructured heel that's very much more stable than some of the other training shoes on the market from Inov-8. So like the Inov-8 F-Lite 235 V3, for example, has a heel that is yes stable, but it doesn't have this kind of structure to it. So I do like the boot and heel in this model. Looking at the midsole here, we have the PowerFlow midsole that runs throughout. And as you can see, we have that rope tech that wraps up on the lateral and medial side here. That is to assist with rope climbs and to prolong the overall durability in the shoe. And then we have that signature dynamic fascia band that runs throughout the outsole here. So as you can see, it almost looks like the foot's fascia running up the foot here. Gives you a lot of maneuverability overall. And the midfoot, once again, is pretty narrow, and it actually has a little divot going up, which could be a problem once again for folks who have flatter or wider feet who do like having a bit more arch support with their shoe. I think this narrow midfoot here does lack a bit of support if that is something you're after in your training shoe. Once again, this model does feature a removable insole, and with the overall reworked boot construction back here, the boot in this model actually comes up a bit more than the other Inov-8 training shoes. So if you do have orthotics and you don't necessarily have a super wide foot, I think this model will actually work for orthotics better than other Inov-8 shoes. You might still be a little bit limited due to how structured and more narrow and tight fitting this upper is up here, but I do think this is a better model to use an orthotic in compared to other Inov-8 training shoes. Overall, I think that's the gist of this model's construction. If you have any questions on this shoe, hit me in the comments below and I will answer whatever you have. All right guys, that wraps up my review of the Inov-8 F-Lite 260 V2. So if you have any questions on this model, hit me in the comments below or reach out to me personally, whichever you prefer. I am in a different setting today. I normally film in my apartment, but for whatever reason, they decided to do the flooring in the apartment above me today, and it was wicked loud, so I couldn't film in there. So I am in my gym, which also has a boxing room, which is where I'm at. So hopefully this setting doesn't throw you off or it doesn't look super poor. I promise we'll be back to our consistent setting next video. But as always, guys, drop a like on the video, drop subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys in the next one.